like, nah, we're done.
We are now live streaming.
We got Kermit the Frog.
Kermit the Frog here. Hi, Hole. Welcome to the Geek EZ. La da 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 da. Boom.
Yes, welcome to the Geek EZ, where we have technical issues every week.
Yeah, we're live on YouTube and we're live on Twitch, and everything seems to be working fine.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, everything's good. Oh, that's why. Interesting. I'm gonna have to fix that.
Get out the hammer!
Yeah, well, no, because it's supposed to be a transparent background on our overlay from Discord, but it's not. But I'm not worried about it right now. I have no idea what we're going to talk about today, but
No. We do have special guests again.
Have an idea we're going to talk about on any given day?
That's true. That's true. Any given Wednesday. There's the title. Any given Wednesday. But I've got a couple of things I want to talk about. But let's start the show. I have no idea what opener I have set ready to go. It's probably the animated one, the teaser animator one that ends really abruptly. But we'll go with that. Be right back.
The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. The opinions expressed do not reflect this station or any affiliated partners. Listener discretion is advised. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Geek EZ.
Oh, that's short and sweet.
You know, that record scratch works perfectly for that moment.
It does.
It's like, we're done. No more. We ran out of budget.
We did. That's about what our budget affords right now. Oh, speaking of which, I love it. We don't even have a website up yet I have to pay for the domain as of April 16th.
Yeah, I've been down that road.
Yeah. It's in the works. When I get a chance to, we sort of have a homepage built. I just haven't made it go live yet.
It's hard to be a tech team of one.
It is. Well, this has been like the week from hell, and it's only Wednesday. Aside from
telling me
monstrous amount of work thrown on just monstrous amount of stuff that it's just like and things not working right, and having an update to a program basically bork all the stuff that I had done before.
We lost somebody.
Who'd we lose? Oh, he's gone. There he's back.
Give him a sec.
Back.
I had to reset.
But it's Adobe. Adobe has a habit of doing things like that. They bork things, and it's I got to go back now tomorrow, and because I'm supposed to be animating the rest of this week and actually doing animations, but I have to go back and re-rig everything. Well, I have to re-rig. Let's see, I've got 4 puppets done. I have to re-rig 3 out of 4 puppets because I went to test them on Monday and it was fine. And I was like, "Oh, look, I can update. I forgot to update, so I updated. Now I got to redo everything."
Better
Stupid me.
Just stop updating.
Yeah, well, they had little bug fixes. I guess that was one bug they didn't fix, but that's neither here nor there. Where we at? What are we doing? Oh, well, let's see.
Special guest first.
Special guest. We got special guest. As long as he stays in.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay this time. I had to reboot a little bit, so
reboot. It looks like Wolfie's having the same issue. Wolfie, be back. Come back. Do what you gotta do and come back.
Okay.
Let the hamster rest, man.
I'm glad it's not me with modem issues.
Sick 'em boo.
Because I don't know. Is the internet infrastructure in this country crumbling as well?
No, it's just crap.
Oh, look, and I just went. Am I roboting right now?
A little bit.
Yeah, because it's like it just drops and then it comes back and then it drops and then comes back. But
a lot of dropping and come back from everybody.
I know we've beaten this horse to death, but The Last Jedi came out on Blu-ray yesterday, and That was my birthday present to me. I told my wife, I was like, I don't care what you guys get me, but I'm going to go buy the Last Jedi. She's like, I expected nothing less. I was like, okay, well. So I picked it up, grabbed the 4K, and I got to say, first of all, this is completely non-geeky, but it's geeky to a point. If you shop at Target and you use a debit card, you really should apply for a Target Red card that attaches to your debit card because you save 5% on everything you buy.
You know, it would be great if they just applied that 5% to everything you buy already.
That's true. But I mean, the Target card thing, I mean, it's you fill it out, it takes 3 minutes to fill out the thing, and you get the card. Boom, bang, done.
It would be nice, but I can tell you from personal experience that retailers want you to sign up so they can get you that information so they can send you targeted ads.
Yes, that's exactly what they want to do. But you know
That's
what?
why I'm not doing it.
I'll take a couple of Target. No, well, I also use the Target app, which has what they call, well, it used to be, what was it? Crap, now I can't remember. Cartwheel. And now it's all part of the same app, the Target app, where they actually have deals on the app that if you scan the thing that you're putting in your cart, and if there's a deal available for it, you put it on the thing, it gives you a little barcode, and they scan that, and you get another up to 15 to 20% off your stuff. So, I mean, we walk in to Target, and everything, once it's rung up, I mean, to say an average, we run a $70 bill at Target, and after scanning the cartwheel thing and that, we've actually gone down to as much as lost like $25 off our thing.
Nice.
It is. It's a really cool thing. And I mean, I gotta say, I picked up the 4K Blu-ray yesterday for the same price that the regular Blu-rays were going for, which is really cool. So, I mean, I got the 4K. But that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about, I am changing my opinion of The Last Jedi.
What?
My opinion of The Last Jedi is, after watching it and watching the little documentary they had with it, which is a really good documentary. The director and the Jedi. I'll talk about that in a second. I am going to put The Last Jedi in my top 3.
Okay, hold on. Yeah, you did cut off. You put it in the top 3, but before we get into that,
yes.
Current opinion. So we have the baseline. What's the current opinion?
My current opinion is, while the Empire Strikes Back is still the best Star Wars film of all the Star Wars films, and that's including the holiday special, the 2 Ewok movies, and the Clone Wars film. The Empire is still the top film. It is, in my opinion, the best of all of them. Followed very closely by A New Hope. And I would put The Last Jedi now right behind A New Hope.
And currently, let me rephrase that.
Yeah. Previously,
the opinion was that it was not in the top 3?
No, it was at least in the top 10. I mean, it was in the top 5, but it has bumped up quite a bit after another rewatch of it. It was like, okay, I missed that before. Oh crap, I didn't see that. And now all of a sudden it was just like, because now, I mean, I've seen it since I've owned the Blu-ray now for 24 hours. I've watched it with my son, who hadn't seen it before. He's only 6. He don't want to see it in the theaters. He sat and watched the whole thing with me. And the disturbing aspect is, when I asked him what he thought was the coolest part of the movie, he goes, when the lightsaber came flying to Rey's hand and that dude fell in half. When I was like, that's kind of disturbing that my 6-year-old son thought someone being bisected was the coolest thing, but okay. He actually, I mean, the first 10 minutes of that movie had him on the edge of a seat. He was like, he kept saying how cool it was. He goes, oh, are they going to make it? Oh, the bombs. Oh, they blew it up. And he kept going. He was really into it. And that kind of opened my eyes, because I was watching my 6-year-old son watching a Star Wars film for the first time, as excited as I was the first time I saw the movie way back when. And he's seen other Star Wars movies, but I don't think I've ever seen him that enthralled. And I went through, and I've watched it a couple more times through that. I had it playing in the background today while I was working. And it really is. I mean, it's a good Star Wars film. I don't care. I mean, I know everybody's, it was so horrible, and there was this, and it was that. It really does have a very Empire Strikes Back feel to it, even though the films are very different.
I think I've watched it now probably 8 times. I've had it for a little while. But I don't know. The movie just, to me, seems to get better with every viewing.
It does.
I can't really explain it. It's like, and it's all the people that hate it. I just can't wrap my head around why they hate it. I was like, why do you hate this? And the reasons they give me make no sense. And and this is kind of stupid and not so much fanboys, but it is stupid that I ended up having to unfriend a guy on Facebook the other day because he would not stop talking about how much he hated it. And it just, no, don't get me wrong, you can have an opinion and not like a movie. I'm fine with that. But when it's literally, this movie is consuming your life, you hate it so much, and it disappointed you, and apparently his kid didn't like it either, and all this other stuff, I'm just thinking to myself, what is your problem? I mean,
He's probably picking up on his attitude about it.
You've got something deep inside your psyche to hate on a movie that much that you will not stop talking about how much you hate it. And you need to let everybody know how much you hated it.
That's when you should have thrown back at them. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
No, because you see, that would be bringing, logic into it too. Granted, Star Wars logic, but it's still logic.
I think what put it in perspective, the most perspective for me. Have you watched the documentary that they put with it?
No, not yet. I bought it on Blu-ray yesterday. Yeah, I bought it on Blu-ray yesterday, and I haven't even cracked it out of the cellophane yet.
The documentary it's pretty in depth. It follows Rian Johnson from day one all the way through the end of finishing or wrapping the production on the film. And I think what was, as somebody who's creative, as an artist myself, I'm not a filmmaker, but it was disheartening and inspiring at the same time, because I mean, the man makes multi-billion dollar movies at this point. He's a $1 billion film, and multi-million dollar budget. Yet, at every turn, he was second guessing himself. At every turn, there was the self-doubt: am I doing this right? And it was the other people around him supporting him, saying, "Yeah, you're doing great." Even Mark Hamill, even though Mark Hamill came out right in the beginning and said that he was fundamentally against everything that he had written for Luke. And he goes through and he goes, once I started to realize that where he was going with this, and now he goes, I was behind him 100%. And it was like, okay, I will give you everything I have. And watching the performances and the way he got the performances out of people, and hearing him explain why he did certain things. And he knew that it was going to be controversial. He knew that it was going to raise eyebrows. And he did them anyway. And it was just like, okay. And then I went back and I was like, I watched the movie again. And it was like, okay, I see it. And it puts it in perspective with The Empire Strikes Back for me, because The Empire Strikes Back really doesn't feel like the first film.
Oh, it doesn't.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
It has the second chapter feel to it. It has it's different. It is extremely different. But it's a classic now. It's been out for 38 years now. So, it's it's ingrained in us that it is such a great film, and it is, I would guess, general consensus is the best Star Wars movie.
You know what's funny too about Empire, at least for me, the first Star Wars movie I got to see in a theater was Return of the Jedi. And I was 6 when I saw it. I had just seen Star Wars. They just started playing Star Wars on HBO the previous weekend, just before Jedi had hit theaters.
You had HBO.
Yeah. So I just seen the first Star Wars, absolutely loved it. And I hadn't seen Empire yet. If that makes any sense at all, which it really doesn't, but I had not seen Empire yet. I'd seen Star Wars, and then I went to see Return of the Jedi. So I saw Jedi before I'd seen Empire.
That's quite the skip.
Yeah, it is. And I watched it, and I love Jedi, regardless of the Ewoks and all that other nonsense. I was 6, so, But then I remember watching Empire maybe a week or two later, because my brother had rented it from a video store. And we watched it, and I remember hating it. Absolutely hating, because the bad guys won, and why is it ending here? And isn't Luke going to go get Han? I had just question on top of questions. I remember hating the hell out of it. And it wasn't until I think I was probably, I don't think I rewatched it again when I was 10 or 11. And then that's when everything kind of started to open up. Like, yeah, this is really a cool movie. And then I watched them all in a row, like you're supposed to. And then I was like, yeah, Empire is the best of the Star Wars movies. And I started to hate on Jedi a little bit. I didn't really hate it, but I was like, yeah, the movie's not as good as Empire. Empire's just great. It's almost flawless.
Almost. Now, I'm not going to say that The Last Jedi doesn't have flaws. I mean, the Canto Bite stuff is still technically useless. DJ is still technically a useless character. I mean, he is only there to set up he is there for one specific reason. He's there to set up what happens when they find out that the ships are taking off. He plays no other purpose whatsoever. So I mean, it still has flaws, but there are so many. The more you think about it, it really is very much like Empire in the way things are revealed. Sudden revelations that are shocking and off-putting to a point. I mean, finding out Darth Vader is your father is just as bad as finding out that your parents are nobody.
And that's the other thing too, when you watch that movie, there are parts of that movie to me that just feel like a big middle finger to what JJ did in the last movie.
Thing is, I also like The Force Awakens.
Oh, me too. I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I just watched that again. I think I watched that last Friday, and yeah, that movie still holds up, and I still really, really enjoy it. But I think The Last Jedi is a better movie.
Yes. Now, I don't know. Maybe people will warm up as the years go by, and
I hope so.
When Episode 9 is finally released, and we can see the entire story play out.
I read somewhere that Ryan didn't even like either watch or read JJ's, watch Force Awakens at all or read the script or anything before he started writing his. Which I find kind of amazing.
I don't think that actually happened. I mean, JJ was still, even though it's really funny, I don't think he ever appeared in the documentary on set, even though he was a producer on the film.
Yeah, I had heard, at one point in time, like right after they announced that Rian Johnson was going to write and direct, Last Jedi, I remember there was an interview with JJ saying he had read Ryan's script and he was angry that he wasn't directing it.
Yeah, it's I mean, I know people are going to hate me. It's like, you can't be a true Star Wars. It's like, you know what? Go back.
You know what? Eat me too. There.
I would say watch the whole saga. Watch it as one giant story.
Exactly. I mean, aren't these characters supposed to grow? I mean, I don't want to see the same movie over and over again. I really don't.
No.
Well, they take away their ability to complain about that too.
Well, it's the same film.
I mean, look at Force Awakens. I mean, Force Awakens came out and it was Force Awakens is a Star Wars movie. I don't care what anybody says. Force Awakens is a Star Wars movie. And then the fans complained because it was too much of a Star Wars movie. It was too familiar.
Oh, no. The reason I complained about it is that there wasn't enough about it that made it, stand out on its own. It was too busy literally using, the first, A New Hope.
Well, see, I think that's a foundation. Smart thing, though. I thought that was very smart of them because they're, in a sense, I mean, granted, we, the Star Wars fans, have been with this series since we were kids, so we know what to expect for the most part. But there's a lot of people just jumping into this thing for the first time. So I thought it was a very good, if not slightly nostalgic way to kind of bring everybody back into the fold. And kind of, I think a little bit was also, hey, we're kind of, we need to get you guys back a little bit because I know we let you down a little bit with the prequels.
People keep saying that, and honestly, I don't think that has anything to do with it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I know they say that one line is "this will start to make things better" was a jab, but I don't think it was, because even as there are still prequel haters out there, and there are people.
I'm not one of them. The only one I don't like is the second one.
Yeah, there will.
To be fair, that was a weak one.
Yeah, there will be people out there that will always hate the prequels. It's the same thing in any fandom. If they reboot or redo or make another Firefly, people are going to hate it.
Well, I wouldn't be interested in that, though, either. I mean, I might watch it, but I'm not going to be hating on it even before it comes out, which a lot of these people were doing, too,
Yeah, we've seen it with Star Trek, with Discovery. I think one of the few that had a sequel-esque or not a reboot, but a continuation or something of a story that people really loved was the Airbender stuff. And even then, I see that there's monstrous hate for The Legend of Korra.
I've never seen one episode, so I can't comment.
No, I can't either. I didn't watch it. I barely watched the Airbender series. I mean, but
Me too.
there's always the elements of a fandom that don't like something. I think the only things I really don't like when it comes to Star Wars in general is the Yuzon Vong from the expanded or the Legends now, the EU or whatever it was.
See, and that's the thing I liked the most. It was different. Now there's parts about it that they did that it didn't care for at all. But the fact is, all the books before that was really just rehashing the same thing. It was
true. It was
old.
It was getting.
Now, I didn't like how they portrayed the Vong in the novels, but when they did the Invasion comic series, that was good.
I don't think I've read the Invasion comic series, and in the newer books, I don't like Chuck Wendig's Aftermath series.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that.
They really don't feel like Star Wars. They don't. I mean, it's whereas the what's his name? Is it Timothy Zong?
Yes.
Who did the Throng series? His books are so well written and so in that vein. The original trilogy he wrote after Return of the Jedi. You could almost hear. I mean, you could hear
the music plays.
You could hear the music playing. You could see these characters doing these things. Whereas Chuck
it was
Wendig,
one of the few books I had ever read that actually gave me that feeling too. I remember sitting and at home reading those things. Like I can hear Star Wars music. I can see what I'm reading.
Whereas Chuck Wendig's stuff, it's whether it's the way he writes, or it's just that it's just cool. It just didn't. Especially, I think the biggest thing is the Aftermath series pertains to characters we never see again, we didn't know about in the first place, and they're just kind of there. And unlike Star Wars Rebels, which introduced us to characters, led us through their path, through their journey, and then ended us so we could move on with the rest of the saga, the Wendig stories just kind of end. And you really don't care. The only
I've never read one, so I can't really comment.
And we only got to
be fair, I mean, EU had that too, where they worked on with various characters, like the Medic series. But that was a nice, neat, focus on what was going on in the Clone Wars, and you still had some other characters that you knew about, and so added stuff to them too. So the problem, I think, with the Wendig stuff is that you had almost nothing but new characters with a few of the classic ones in there, and they just didn't feel like the classic characters. They didn't behave the same. Han Solo, for example, was probably the best one of it. He just didn't feel like Han. He was, but he wasn't.
Yeah.
Wedge didn't feel like Wedge.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there.
The only character that carried on from those books was Zap Wexley, and we only saw him. Snap Wexley. Yeah, we only saw him for what? 10 minutes at most in The Force Awakens, and he was a side character?
He's gotten more love in the comics.
Oh, he has got... Just so ever...
Still a side character.
Yeah, there's one thing I didn't realize, that he wasn't in the Last Jedi, but he didn't die. He wasn't even with the Resistance at the time. He was out in the Outer Rim. He and a few other of the fighters, I guess Black Squadron, are out looking for their allies in the Outer Rim, and they were sent there just before the evacuation. So, I mean, that was explained. Was it explained in one of the books, or was it explained in the comics? I don't remember.
Not in the comics yet, because I've got them.
Yeah. Where did I read that? I know I read it somewhere. But it's nice to know that those characters are still out there, and JJ can bring them back, and that kind of stuff. Because, I mean, the aspect that there were 30 ships that left the Raddus, only 5 landed. So 25 ships got blown up so you got, what, 15 people? 15, 20 people left of the Resistance? And that's it.
Left.
So it's like, there's got to be more. I mean, how are you going to carry, what are they going to have to restart the rebellion all over again like they did 100 years ago?
Kinda.
Well, 50, 60 years ago. I think my biggest gripe about all of it is it's just the Empire still.
Yeah.
That's my only gripe, is they didn't come up with something new in that aspect. They just took what was the remnants of the Empire and rebuilt it.
Yeah, if only they just used something new, like the Vong. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I would say that would probably be, if anything, it's a minor gripe. I mean,
Yeah.
we do need a villain, and I'm kind of with you there. I really wish they would have maybe went another way with it and tried something new. Maybe some, I don't know, like I think it would have been interesting to see a Sith type of villain.
Well, we were kind of getting that. I mean,
Yeah, sort of. I mean, I'd like to know. I really wish they would have maybe delved more into the Knights of Ren thing.
We still haven't seen jack squat of them.
Exactly. I mean, we've seen Kylo, but he seems to be a big baby.
I mean, when you really think about it, it started with Phantom Menace. It was Sidious / Palpatine / the Emperor starting the machinations of starting the Empire. And by the time we get to episode 3, the Empire is now a thing. We go through let's see, Rebels and the original trilogy, and we see the fall of the Empire at its height, and then its fall. And then we start in The Force Awakens, where the Republic has been reborn, and the remnants of the Empire are just now starting their. I guess it kind of makes sense, but
Empire 2.0.
Yeah, I mean the fact that they use everything from the Empire, the ship designs, the stormtrooper design, everything was just like nothing was new. Where I guess it started in the Clone Wars too, because the Clone Wars looked like the stormtrooper. I guess it's just carrying it on. I don't know.
Well, you got to take into account, with the Aftermath series, it makes sense that it's coming from Empire because that's really a core group of them left. The Empire, they're just more KKK.
I haven't read any of those books, so the last thing I read were the Timothy Zahn books.
Oh, don't worry, it's you're not missing much.
Yeah, that's what I've actually been told.
Now, if you should read probably like Bloodlines and Leia. Those 2 books are good.
And see, that's the other problem too. Is I'm so damn busy anymore. I don't have time to sit and read a book.
Oh, you should tell us. What are you busy with, sir?
Well, starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I, Greg Paulson, will be in Washington, D.C. at the Awesome Con, pimping Ironclad stuff.
Pimp it.
I'll actually have copies of the book there with me, some art, some prints, and a whole other bunch of comic people will be there too. Looks to be a pretty cool time. It's my first time ever on an airplane, so this ought to be interesting.
Welcome to the 20th century.
Yeah, my dad used to say, hey, if God wanted us to fly, he'd buy the tickets.
I love flying.
Never been. I'm not gonna lie. I'm excited about it. I'm nervous and excited all at the same time, even though I know I pretty much have nothing to be nervous about. It's just, jitters. Never been on a plane before.
I'd be more worried about getting mugged in Washington, D.C. than I would be about flying.
Well, that's the other thing too. I'm staying with a friend of mine who's in the military. He's letting me use his guest room at his house. He's actually picking me up from the airport and everything. He's master sergeant, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in the military.
Oh, he's gonna have a nice place.
Oh yeah. What's the funny thing too? I went to junior high and high school with this guy, and we were like best friends for the longest time. And I would never, ever, ever have pictured him being in the military.
Some people are like that.
Yeah, he's one of them. I mean, just when he told me, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm in the military now. I'm a master sergeant," and all this other stuff. I was like, "Wow, really, you?"
He is a master sergeant, greater than all other sergeants before.
But I don't think I've seen him in, God, I bet 18 years.
It's been many moons.
And he heard that I was going to come to this show in DC. He's like, "Hey, I can put you up in my place, and you don't have to get a hotel." I was like, "Hey, even better." He goes, "You want to do some sightseeing while you're here?" I was like, "Yeah, more than likely on Thursday. I'm not going to have much to do, so
it's a win-win."
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
3 up and 3 down mean to you?
That's not how it goes. 3 up and 3 down just means 0.
End of an inning.
Heard word.
Funniest line in Good Morning Vietnam to me is that one.
Which is good.
Yes.
What's 11 up and 3 down?
No idea.
That's pretty simple math. Come on, 11 minus 3.
8.
Well, you're forgetting the rest of the formula. There was an up. It was 11 up, 3 down.
Oh, I don't need to be doing number problems.
You're hurting my feelings. I don't do math.
I don't do math at all.
And this is why you're all 8 up.
Oh, Lord.
Ha ha ha.
Hey, back to the Last Jedi stuff real quick.
Okay.
Because Wolfie, even though he's having connection issues and probably won't be talking, he posted this article, or that I guess Mark Hamill is kind of complaining that his morning Han Solo scene was cut, yet milking the sea cow wasn't. And I could understand that completely.
Yeah, I could understand a little griping about that. I mean, I really thought he did just a great job in Last Jedi. I was like, wow, I forgot this guy could actually like really act when he wanted to. Because a lot of times when you see him do anything anymore, he's kind of hamming it up a little bit.
It's kind of what
Hamming it up?
Don't say.
Yeah, I mean, if you see him like when he was on The Flash, even the more recent episodes of The Flash, I mean, when he's playing the trickster or whatever, it's like he's trying to do the Joker meets Hannibal Lecter, and it's just coming off too over the top for me.
Oh, no. That's actually just the trickster. That's the way he's always portrayed the trickster.
Oh yeah, but it's still he's still chewing some scenery, and
Oh, yeah.
I forgot. And granted, I mean that character kind of calls for some scenery chewing, but watching Last Jedi, you kind of forget this guy can actually act, and he's really good too if he gets the right material.
I know a lot of people. The sea cow is another one of those scenes that people complain about. Well,
And I don't know why. I thought it was cool.
It's just not Star Wars. It's just a gross out factor. I was like, did you not forget that George Lucas had farting, the Eopies and burping frogs, and I mean all these other gross out things in the film. That I mean,
how about the Tauntaun having his belly cut open? That wasn't. I mean, I remember seeing that as a kid and thinking that was kind of gross.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was what it was until many years later.
But I mean, it's not like
never clicked.
It's just not unheard of in a Star Wars film. Is it the most? I mean, it's pretty graphically compared to some of the. I mean, the farting Eopie is, but they're kid jokes. They're little. I mean, it's to remind you that this is not. It's not serious.
And that's the other thing too. It's I think certain fans of Star Wars have taken it to a point where it's religion, and it gets dangerous when you do that with movies, and when you do that with anything.
No, it won't get to that point until they start teaching Huttese in colleges, like Klingon.
Jabba, Wookiee, Nipple, Pinchy.
Oh, there's some. I think is it over in England or the UK that like Jedi.
Australia.
Was it Australia? Okay, I knew somewhere that they actually, Jedi is a religion, original religion they recognize over there. I was like, oh, okay.
I didn't know. I thought it got denied because they were trying to have it recognized.
I just remember hearing about it. That's all.
But I mean, the thing that Lucas has reiterated when he first created them, when he went through, it's a kids' movie. They were made for kids, like he was when he watched the old adventure serials.
It started as Flash Gordon until he couldn't get the rights to Flash Gordon.
So yeah, I mean, now. Are they better than all those other ones? Yes. But I mean, at heart, they're still adventure stories for young kids to go enjoy and have something. Now, I will say The Last Jedi is probably the most graphically violent comparatively.
I would agree.
There is a lot of slashing and hacking and head removal and
but I
the dude getting that dude getting like impaled and then tossed into the reactor. That was another one where my son turned to me and goes, oh, he went boom. I was like, yes, he did.
Yes, he did. We do have commentary from the Twitch chat, so from, of course, Firefly. Let's see. Well, he said, don't call him sir, he works for a living. Yeah, that old classic joke. He mentions he does wonder what the social justice warriors would say if The Last Jedi had an analog of Admiral Dala. Well, Aftermath did, kind of.
Which one was Admiral Dala?
Admiral Dalla was the redheaded chick who basically failed at command.
Is that the one who
More or
like
less.
killed everybody?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. She's the one who like gassed everybody, right?
Yeah, but didn't she?
And the Wolfie appeared and dropped.
Stupid.
That seems to be the general consensus in here. Is like we hear everybody for about 13 seconds and bam.
You gotta speak fast. Now we haven't even heard
Um,
Alistair.
Try
Well,
and talk like John Machida.
I've been waiting for the right moment to say this, but honest trailer for Last Jedi came out, I think, today.
I have to go watch it.
Not now.
No, not now.
Oh yes, and Firefly pointed out that Admiral Dalla was commander of the Empire's Area 51 type places. This is true. Was also the lover of Tarkin, but apparently she does not exist at this time.
Until Filoni brings her back.
That's a man who should be put in charge of stuff when it comes to the Star Wars.
He is put in charge of
gets it.
stuff.
He is.
Put him in charge of more stuff.
No, I like him right where he is. I'm not trying to say, oh, you got to stay there with the animation, but he fills in the gaps quite nicely. It's like Star Wars movies are the bricks, and Filoni's animated series are the mortar between the bricks. Like that analogy, huh?
Mm-hmm. I see what you did there.
That's the other thing too. I've never watched Star Wars Rebels or Clone Wars.
Oh, you should.
Sean!
No,
You need to get out right now. No.
No.
I'm sorry.
He's the man who lives for a living. Come on.
That's true. No.
He lives for a
I would
living. Wow, that was
say-
bad. He works for a living.
I guess you got to watch Clone Wars before you watch Rebels.
Well, I've started watching Clone Wars. I started watching with my daughters this weekend because my 12-year-old wanted to start watching it. I watched, I think, the first 3 episodes, and it wasn't half bad, but I was like, I ended up having some other things to do and just never went back to it.
It does take a little bit to follow, I think, that first season, because they're doing the kind of the news, World War II style news openings and whatnot, and it's not all in sequence.
Wasn't the first season, it all seemed to be kind of, the stories kind of seemed self-contained for the most part. Then didn't the later seasons, it was like an ongoing story throughout them or something?
Well,
Yeah, they started to spread more.
there's actually a list on StarWars.com, and I can get you the link after the show, that actually gives you the chronological order of the episodes as they take place in the timeline. Because there are episodes in Season 2 that take place before the first episode of Season 1, and like stuff like that.
Wow, that's not confusing or anything.
No.
But yeah, I would say watch Clone Wars, and watch Clone Wars first. I mean, that's you got to watch it because of the characters involved that reappear later.
And see, I was watching, pretty much today after I got all packed up and everything like that. I started, turn on Netflix, and I saw Clone Wars in my thing, the feed to start watching again. But then I saw they put up the second season of Into the Badlands, and I needed to start watching that.
Now, Rebels is an interesting case. When they announced Rebels, I was very much against it. I did not want that show at all. I wanted more Clone Wars. I was wrong.
Yes. I wasn't against it, but I was like, what are they going to do? What are they going to tell us? And I was wrong because they told us a lot. They not only told us a lot, but they kept it separated enough from they tied it in here and there, but they kept it its own contained world within the larger world, or the universe that they have created in Star Wars. Yet it still all ties together.
Gotcha. I may, when I'm on the plane in the morning, I might fire up Netflix on my tablet and watch a little bit of it.
I don't think Rebels is on Netflix yet.
Well, I'm talking about Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah. See, well, Clone Wars is pretty much, it really is just filling in between episodes 2 and 3. Whereas Rebels is kind of like, it fills in between 3 and 4, but not really.
fills in, and it's also its own thing.
Yeah, it fills in more between episode 3 and Rogue One and 4. But it's just kind of it's on like the little tributary next to the big river.
Sweet.
Full of analogies today.
Many analogies. Well, to go back to stuff that Greg's doing.
Yes.
Let's see. Your last time you were here, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but you had another project in the works, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm actually currently, that's my current thing right now. A couple months back, pretty much after I finished Ironclad, I had told myself I'm not going to do another comic book for a while. I got to take a breather.
You did tell me that. I remember you specifically. I'm done. I need to take a break for about a year or two.
Yeah, I honestly intended on taking about a year, maybe 2 years off, and I started doing some painting. And I got into doing portraits and doing some painting. I did these kind of nifty little horror movie paintings because I'm a really big horror movie retard. And I did some paintings, like I did a Texas Chainsaw Massacre family portrait piece, and I did a Friday the 13th. I did all these horror type paintings.
They look good.
Oh, thank you. And while doing those, though, I started kind of tinkering in my sketchbook with a little idea of something that I had been cooking up while I was working on Ironclad, but I never really did anything with it. I was combing through a sketchbook and found this drawing I did of at the time it was just a guy with wings. I didn't really have any plans with it other than that, and then I started kind of doodling it with it more, and then I stopped painting. All of a sudden, it's like, oh Christ, the comic book bugs hit me again, and I started fleshing out this design more. And came up with this character I ended up calling him the Black Owl. And I was like, okay, well, if I do decide to sit down and hunker down and do another comic project, I think this is what I want to do. And then I talked to my buddy Mark Poulton, who used to write Hawkman at DC. And I started telling him about what I had done. I showed him the drawing and everything. He's like, ooh, cool, let's do something with this. And we started kind of building a story that's kind of if Batman and Iron Man had a child, it would be this guy. And he started fleshing things out more, and I started doing some more designs and going online and looking up some stuff. And I ran across a public domain characters page on Wikipedia. I was looking up stuff on Wikipedia one night and fell down a rabbit hole, like some people tend to do. And found this public domain superheroes page. And basically, it's just a page of all superheroes that were published in the 1940s, 50s, 60s. Actually, I think it's only to the 50s. After a certain amount of time, when their copyrights had lapsed, they fell in the public domain, so people could use these characters in their books. And lo and behold, I fell upon a character called the Black Owl. And I was like, oh, damn it, there's already a Black Owl. Maybe I should change his name. It's like, well, it's a public domain character, so I can maybe kind of get away with it. So I messaged Mark quick and said, hey, man, I just found out there's already a Black Owl character in existence. He's a public domain character, but he exists. And Mark's like, well, why don't we just incorporate that backstory into what we're doing? So that's what Mark did. When he was scripting it out, he basically looked at all the old Black Owl stuff that he could find, and we just incorporated it into what we're doing now. And he sent me the script. I started drawing it, and I just actually finished penciling the whole thing about 2 weeks ago, and now I'm going back and inking a few pages yet, because I'm penciling and inking this whole first book. And I sent it off to a well-known indie publisher. I'm not going to say who, because nothing's set in stone yet, but they're very, 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 very interested in publishing it, but they want to see it, some more finished pages. By finished, I mean completely penciled, inked, colored, lettered, ready to roll. So that's kind of what I'm dealing with now, on top of going out and pimping Ironclad wherever I can.
So basically, they want you to do all the work before they say, hey, we're going to pay you.
Essentially, yeah. Right now, we've only got 8 pages like fully completed, where they're penciled, ink, lettered, colored. And the publisher wants to see a few more completed pages before they say, hey, okay, we're going to do this. But the publisher, like I said, I can't say who it is because they're a pretty well-known indie publisher. The only thing I will say is it's not Image Comics. But they're really the books they publish, though, are would probably throw people once I told them who the publisher is. But they're very interested in it, and they really like everything they've seen. They just want to see more.
Wait, let me guess. I just get one shot. It's blue water, isn't it?
No.
Are they explosive? No, I'm not gonna. No, I don't want to go anywhere. No.
No.
Okay. That's kind of cool.
To give you the backstory of the blue water thing. Yeah, no.
I'll give you a little backstory, and I'm not going to give you too much, but basically, I got the hard one from Blue Water. I worked for them for about 3 years, and it was probably about 3 years too many. But they, looking back, it's some of my first real full published stuff, and they gave me opportunities when nobody else was. So I do look back on that. But I started an imprint through them, and the whole thing I got screwed over really bad. So
it was a burn,
a very big burn.
So, didn't you also once work for a man who can't draw feet?
Very briefly, yes. Back in 2008, I was going to do when Rob Liefeld got back in at Image and in the good graces of McFarlane and Eric Larson, and when Robert Kirkman got him back into the fold at Image, Rob was starting his studios again and going to start doing some books, and I was going to draw one of them. And if you can find it out there, there's a 2008 Summer Extreme Studio sampler from Image. You might be able to find it somewhere, but Rob was only selling them at conventions, and the artwork for the book I was going to do that I did is in there. So it was going to happen, but then the two books he had launched at the time, I think Glory and Prophet, both did really bad sales-wise, and Youngblood was doing okay, and I think the main reason Youngblood was doing okay is because Rob wasn't writing or drawing it. But the other two books he did, Glory and Prophet, weren't doing well sales-wise, so basically the whole Extreme Studios revival got canned almost immediately. Yeah, it was all right, though. I mean, I did get paid for the two pieces I did, so that was fine.
Which, considering that some artists who've worked with him it's not always worked out for them.
No, not at all. I think you were over here and we watched the Image Revolution documentary, and they talked to a few guys who got the high hard one from Rob when everything was crumbling down in the late '90s before he got the boot from Image.
Didn't he block you?
Yes. We talked about this last time he was here.
It's been a while.
I have been blocked by the Rob Liefeld for making the comment about feet.
Yeah, Rob tends to get a little, what's the word I want to use?
Defensive about feet?
Defensive about his artwork, yeah. But you know what? Whether you like the guy's work or not, bottom line, he changed the way we look at comic books. And I still like his work. I mean, yeah, granted, he can't draw feet, but, that's neither here nor there. I have trouble drawing hands and babies. So, regardless of what you think of the guy's work, whether you like him or not, he changed the way we look at comic books. He made it so comic books didn't have to look so staticky. And that's one thing I've always been in awe with Rob's work, is he's very dynamic. He might not be, the greatest storyteller in the world, but he does have a sense of dynamics that I wish I had in my artwork.
Yep, sometimes it's a little too dynamic where you can see both breasts and both butt cheeks at the same time.
Too true.
What happened to the spine? What happened to you, Steve Rogers?
Yeah, when I was in my first year of art school, there was a course on comic books that I took. And Rob was one of the chapters, basically, about how awful, his artwork is. And there's a whole page in my textbook that would show a Rob Liefeld drawing and the original drawing that Rob swiped it from. And I could do nothing but laugh. I was like, wow, I didn't realize he was that bad. I mean, I knew Rob was bad, but I didn't realize he was that bad.
Well,
I mean, we all do that. I mean, I can't name an artist that hasn't sat there and said, "Oh man, I really would love to have a drawing of this character with this kind of pose." And then you kind of do it, and it happens. For goodness, when you really think about, Disney did it to themselves. In the 1960s, they reused animation from
Constantly.
all their films. And I never realized how bad it was until I saw them side by side. I was like, oh my word, they really did it.
You want to see something truly bad, though? Have you ever heard of you being in animation, you've heard of an animation studio called Filmation, haven't you?
Oh yeah.
Go watch any Filmation show from about 1967 through the time they folded, which I think was in 89 or 90.
The He-Man cartoons. Everybody throws their head back the same way.
The Superman cartoon. I think they did the second Superman cartoon after the Fleischers, and their cells and backgrounds and movements of characters that you saw in 5 minutes ago in a different cartoon. Filmation was known for washing cells and using them over again, and they did it constantly.
Which is why Disney, they all did, because it was cheaper than going out and buying new cells. Which is why when you find original cells from some of these old cartoons, it's extremely rare. But yeah, between them and Hanna-Barbera, they mastered recycling of animation. The big thing that Filmation did was they would use rotoscoping. They would have a film of somebody running.
Oh yeah,
they would use that for everything they did, and it was always. I used to laugh because He-Man. I grew up with those cartoons. It was 1982, 83. So every time He-Man would start to run, he always ran the exact same way. He would do that little bend and all of a sudden take off in like a squatty kind of run. And then I went back and they actually used that in the old Star Treks that they did. And they used it in some of the other cartoons. I was like, oh my goodness, everybody runs the exact same, because that was what they had rotoscope. They had that to rotoscope over, and they just used that as their basis for all their animations. And it's not unheard of. Everybody does it, but sometimes when it's a blatant ripoff of somebody else's artwork, then you're gonna get in trouble.
Oh yeah, too true.
I remember I had been talking to another artist where I was like, I would love to go back, and I started doing a couple, and where it's like I would like to draw some of the things that Liefeld drew, except make the anatomy right. It's like take one of the ones where he's got like a female character where both her breasts and both her butt cheeks are in view, and then draw it the way it's supposed to be, or a far shot of characters where all of the females have the high arched backs, like they're wearing high heels, yet they're not. And even though he draws them wearing high heels, there's no heel there. They're just always on their tippy toes and things like that. So it was like, okay, go back. I think I started doing the Hawk and Dove cover that he did, #1.
I've got a story about Rob on Hawk and Dove that I've heard it from 3 different people now, so I know it's got to be semi-true. And one of the 3 people I've heard it from was the writer. So when Rob was doing Hawk and Dove way back, the first issue, Rob, I think they sent back all but I think 3 pages of it for Rob to redraw at least 3 panels per page. Something had to be fixed on every page he did, to the point they brought in a ghost artist to fix stuff. And if you look in the issues of Hawk and Dove that he did, you can see where the ghost artist came in and fixed Rob's problems. I guess Rob was none too pleased about that, but editorial was actually, this was before Rob had any clout, really. He was starting to get kind of a name, but he hadn't drawn X-Force or anything yet, so he wasn't Rob Liefeld. He was just this little snot-nosed kid who was, I think Rob was 17 or 18
the artist,
at the time.
not yet as known as.
Yeah, I think he was 17 or 18 at the time when he did Hawk and Dove. So he was this young kid drawing comic books, and he was turning pages, and DC was sending him right back saying, fix this leg, fix this, fix this panel here. Why is the perspective like this? Why is this guy's head so big? Why are his hands so small?
This is why. It's that reasoning why I laughed back in 96. Went to the big convention in Pittsburgh, brought some pages that I had had penciled up. Now I really didn't want to get into comic books, but I was like, some buddies of mine, we had all drawn up about 5 or 6 pages. We used an existing comic book as a script, and we just drew it ourselves. I happened to use Batman, the Batman Spider-Man one, where the Joker and what's his name, Carnage team up. And I just grabbed a couple of pages from that, and I just redrew it using what they had there. I didn't know what the script looked like. I just kind of guessed using what they were, close-ups and all that kind of stuff. And so I took the pages around, and the biggest thing that both Marvel and DC, I think it was Neil. Was it Neil Adams? Somebody big from DC looked at my pages and said, "Your storytelling needs work. It's just hard to follow." He goes, "Everything else looks pretty good. It's just hard to follow where you're going with it." Marvel said the same thing, and a couple other artists that I went to. That was where I got to meet the guy who created the Green Lantern, and he even looked at my stuff. And I can't remember the guy's name. Older guy, the original.
Odell?
Yes, Odell. Yes, and he looked at my stuff, and he was like, and they all had the same thing. Your storytelling is wrong. And I was like, okay, I can get behind that. He was like, I mean, I really wasn't into doing books and stuff. And I had just started learning how to storyboard and how to figure out camera angles and stuff like that for storyboarding, which it's basically comic book drawing. It's the same thing, except you're giving a visual for a director to use.
I used to watch Phil Hester do his storyboards he used to do storyboards for the Superman animated series.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to watch him do that. I was envious because his storytelling is very good. Some people get knocked for Phil's kind of blocky, very dark art style, but he's got some great storytelling.
I think what's cool, easier about storyboarding for films and stuff is when you get a technical script from them, it's a little more in depth than a script you get. I mean, I've seen technical scripts from comic books, and I've seen technical scripts for motion pictures, and the motion picture scripts are usually a little more in depth as to where the camera is, and all those kind of things, compared to letting you kind of figure it out the way a comic book is written. They're very vague. They tell you, well, this panel we want this and that. They're not. It's not as in depth. But
have you seen? There's a documentary. We watched it here called Jodorowsky's Dune. Have you seen that?
Not yet. No.
Seek it out.
It's something.
It's an amazing documentary. It's probably my favorite documentary of all time. If you don't know about it, Alejandro Jodorowsky is a filmmaker. Basically, he's the inventor of the Midnight movie. He had the very first movie ever shown at midnight screenings exclusively. He has a movie called El Topo. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a weird, trippy, psychedelic Western. Well, back in 1974, and a French producer got the rights to make Frank Herbert's Dune into a movie.
I've seen the artwork from it.
I think we just lost him.
I think we did. If you can hear us, we can't hear you.
Planned in the movie.
Yep.
And Moebius.
Greg, it cut out on you, and so it was like it just stopped, and then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's like we heard Moebius.
Yeah, Moebius, the comic book artist, was Jodorowsky brought him in to storyboard all of Dune. He storyboarded every shot in the movie that they were going to make. And Moebius also did the costume designs too. And then he brought in, he was going to have Pink Floyd do music for the film. The cast he had assembled for this thing was insane at the time. Like Orson Welles was going to play the Baron Harkonnen. Salvador Dali was going to play the Mad Emperor of the Universe. David Carradine was going to play the Duke Leto. I mean, he had just this amazing cast, and he brought in all these people from outside of film to create this film. And the reason he had storyboarded the whole thing before they shot it, so they could show some of the studios to say, this is how we're going to make this movie. And it's such a great documentary. I mean, if you can find it and get your hands on it, sit and watch it because it's so worth it.
Sounds very familiar to a certain movie that came out 4 years later.
Well, here's the problem though with that. I honestly think had Jodorowsky been able to make Dune, we probably wouldn't be talking about Star Wars.
Probably not.
There's an awful
Especially
lot
when-
of coincidences.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially when you see some of the storyboards that Moebius had drawn up from Jodorowsky's script. I mean, there's certain things in there. I know Lucas had to have seen that thing floating around a 20th Century Fox office and lifted some stuff.
Of course he did. But back to my story about 96. DC, Marvel, a few of the other bigger, well, they were the two big ones I went to. Saw my stuff. I go to the image table. I have no idea who's sitting there. I don't know any of the artists in Image aside from Life of the big guys. I mean, there were other artists and stuff like this. Now this is Image's heyday. We're talking. This is when Wetworks and Jim and let's see, Wetworks and what was Jim Lee's one, Wildcats, and all those were huge over there. Spawn was like the comic book everybody read, and I go to Image and I show them the stuff, and the guy's going through the pages. He goes, these are really good, except your anatomy is all wrong. And I was like, excuse me? And he goes, no, these pages are awesome. I mean, you got this, and you guys go, but your anatomy is all wrong. And I'm like, dude, I taught anatomy in high school to other students. It was just like, I've tested out of every anatomy class I have ever been to. I have been doing life drawing classes since I was 14 years old.
And see, that's the thing too. It's like when you say something, I mean, when they say something to you like that, you know, in your head, in your heart, that they're just full of it.
Yep.
And you can't say anything.
I didn't. I walked away, and my buddy Scott was with my buddy Scott, who, I mean, he knows. I mean, he was there when I tested out of anatomy the first week in college. He was like, I mean, I walked in. I remember sitting there. My anatomy teacher was giving us some spiel, and we had these big, huge sketch pads. So I drew some guy running, just a man running.
Sure.
And the guy walks around, and we had, and this is after it was the first week and a half. And yeah, right off the bat, I mean, we had a model right off the bat. Boom! It was like our first day, and she walked in disrobed, and it was like, okay, we're in this for real now. And I mean, we had our teacher was kind of a perv, so all the models that were in those classes and in the anatomy classes he taught were all younger women usually. That would mean some of the other classes.
Sure, they were.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the mid, but again, this was I mean, it was right off the bat, and I laughed because it was our first day. Smoke break came around. This is when I was smoking fairly heavily. Smoke break came around, and everybody who had ever done this before and smoked got up and walked out of the room. And we all looked around, and we knew who smoked and who didn't. And we're like, ha ha, they can't stand up. All these poor young kids who had never, I mean, we're talking, I was in my 20s at this point, and a lot of the other guys were we were either late teens, early 20s. And I mean, there were kids in this class that were 17 years old. That there's like, oh, I'm going to art school, and I finished early in high school, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So these guys had no clue what they were getting into. But he walked over. This is the first week. He walks over to my desk as he's giving a spiel, and in the middle of his sentence, he slams his hand down on my sketch pad. He goes, "What are you doing in my class?" And now I'm like, oh, great, here we go. I screwed up at first. I mean, it's like this teacher who I know is known to be a hard ad, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, "No, seriously, what are you doing in my class?" He goes, "If you can draw like this, you don't need to be here." And he goes, "You go down to the office." He goes, go down to the main office and test out." I was like, "For real?" He goes, "Yeah, bring me the papers. I'll sign them." So, I mean, I had no problem with anatomy. So, I mean, we're walking away. And
I would bet you dollars to donuts to that guy or kid or whoever looked at your work at the image table probably had never drawn a thing in his life.
Well, that's just it. Because, I mean, we walked away. My buddy Scott's with me. I mean, Scott, God rest his soul. He died a few years back. But he laughs and he goes, "Did he really say something about your anatomy?" I was like, "Yeah, he did." And he goes, were you rushing through it? Or I was like, "No." It's like, I mean, I might have gotten a couple of things off here and there because, I mean, it was drawn quickly, but I wasn't rushing. And, you know, I know I fudge things all the time, but I know what they're supposed to look like. And if I really want to, I go back and fix them. But he giggles, and I was like, you know what? I can't take any criticism like that from a company that thinks that a human body has 27 stomach muscles.
Exactly.
So, I mean, and I laughed, but I mean, I knew I didn't want to get into books. I mean, that really wasn't my deal. I'll do a pinup and stuff like that, and I like doing that kind of stuff, like splash page pinups and stuff. But sitting down and drawing a book, nah, it's not my spiel.
I mean, I like drawing a book mainly just because, I mean, I only do it if it's something I create or I co-create with a friend of mine. You know, if we're sitting down and create, let's, you know, I want to do a book on this. Let's do this. But I think that's the main reason I don't really want to work at Marvel or DC, is because I don't really want to draw their characters on a regular basis. I have more fun and, you know, I have a better time creating my own than working on, you know, Superman for, you know, 15, 20 years. You know?
I remember getting the tour. The first film I ever worked on out of college, the assistant director on the film, her husband was an editor at DC. And she's like, "You want to come up and see the studio?" This was when they were still in Manhattan. And I was like, "I would love to get a tour." I mean, she goes, "You illustrate?" She goes, "I know you draw and stuff like that." I mean, I was doing special effects makeup at the time, but she was like, "I know you draw and stuff like that," and all that. And I kept in touch with them for a little bit. I thought about possibly, when I was looking for work, to say, "Hey, you guys got any cleanup artist work you need or anything?" Because that's what I got to, and that though they fascinated me. I walked into this room and there were what, 12 tables, 12 drawing tables, and at every table there was somebody who had a stack of pencils or inks, usually actually ink drawings from all different books, Superman and Justice League and all these other books. And I remember talking to this one artist who was sitting there with a piece of tape, some whiteout, and a pen, and going through on every page of this Superman book and fixing Superman's S on his chest. And I was like, that has got to be the most mind-numbing job on the planet.
Oh yeah, back in, you know, the 70s, 80s, even in the early 90s. I mean, their little interns would do that a lot of the time. The artists that would, you know, get intern jobs there at DC or Marvel, you know, they'd work in the bullpen, as they call it, and, you know, had Superman's hair, the spit curl on Superman's hair not right, you know, white that little part out there. The S is crooked there. Fix that with some white out, and then go in with a little ink pen and fix that line. You know, they would do that all the time. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys, that's all they were there to do, is fix, you know, do little corrections.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I learned the Scotch tape trick. You white out, and then you throw a piece of Scotch tape over it, and you can ink on top of that, and it's a smooth surface and not white out. I was like, well, I did not know that, and now I do.
So genius. It's such a genius thing. I didn't know about it either for the longest. I went to go help Phil Hester on a book. I was like, oh wow, that's wild.
It's amazing the little things you pick up. When I was sculpting toys, I learned little tips and tricks on how to speed things up so you could get cleaner surfaces in the clay before going to waxes and stuff. And one of them was using sandpaper to smooth out the surface of your clay. Fine grit sandpaper, like a 600 grit. Fast forward 10 years, I'm doing commission work for Disney, and I got called into a shop where this guy, he was commissioning people because he got a big job from Disney and he didn't have enough sculptors. So I was doing it on the side, and they're on my DeviantArt page. They're the what is it? The Gophers for the Winnie the Pooh ride.
Oh, cool.
And Disney had a whole bunch of them they were doing. And I already knew the head of Disney Sculpting because I'd been doing work with her at the other shop I was working for, that it was my full-time job. And she laughed when she saw me. She goes, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, he pulled me. He was looking for artists, so I came over moonlighting." And so she was cool with me. We had a good rapport, and she knew I knew what I was doing. And there were all these other artists who were there, and we were using like the cheapest clay known to man, clean clay. It's not even it's not a modeling clay. It's usually used to just make molds and stuff. And this is what we were using because they needed them done as fast as possible. Real soft clay. A little bit of sandpaper and alcohol, and I'm smoothing out my characters, and I'm getting them to like glass smooth. I mean, they're shiny. The clay is shiny, and they're like, "How the heck are you doing this?" And I was just like, I just take sand. I mean, it's like, you guys have been sculpting for how long, and you don't know this little trick? I mean, one of this guy was in his 50s. And I was just like, "You've never seen this?" He goes, No. I was just like, "Well, here you go. You take a piece of sandpaper and you smooth it out." By the end of it, everybody was smoothing out their clay with sandpaper.
Well, you learn something new every day. Well, kids, I actually need to go because unfortunately I have to be up very early in the morning to get to the airport. So I just want to say thank you guys for letting me come on here again briefly. It was fun. I love coming on this thing. So,
Well, if you're listening or you listen to us and you're in the DC area, when's the convention?
the convention starts. It's AwesomeCon starts this Friday. I think March 30th. Yeah, March 30th this Friday, and it goes on till April 1st. So, yeah, in the Washington D.C. area, AwesomeCon, please come out. I will be there along with several other people, some very famous people going to be there as well. John Boyega from Star Wars will actually be there. So, if any Star Wars fans there, come on out. Thanks, guys. I gotta go. I'll see you later.
Later.
Thanks for showing up.
Well, now that he and I geeked out art-wise, what are we going to talk about now?
I don't know. What are we going to talk about? We don't really have any shows to talk about.
No.
Well, there is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah. But they're still in their not filler episodes, but they're still in the build-up episodes.
Building up towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean,
Series.
it was a good show this week. Or this past week.
Fitz got issues. And they can't stop messing with them. If there's one thing that's been consistent throughout the entire series, messing with Fitzsimmons.
True.
Though I did like the twist that they did. That was kind of cool. I honestly thought it was an aberration that had shown up, and no, it was not.
Spoiler alert. No, it's not. You know, speaking of that, this is something. Well, we've touched on it before. We've talked about it a little before, and I had this conversation. I can't remember who I was having this conversation with now. See, I have friends outside of the Geek EZ. Because I never talk to you guys unless it's Wednesday. It's very rare you guys talk to me during the week, right?
Usually you're busy, and we don't need to bug you.
Oh,
Oh, you do
sorry.
randomly show up at the other.
I do. I randomly pop in every once in a while, but I mean, it's very unusual. I mean, it's not like you guys aren't my friends. I mean, we talk and stuff on Facebook and all that kind of stuff. But
We do not associate outside of here.
with Infinity War coming out, the person I was talking to said, I think this is going to either be like the greatest thing ever, or it's going to be the nail in the coffin of comic book movies. And I was like, why? Why do you think that? And it was like, it's too big. It's so big and it's so huge. They're all there that it's just, I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way. It's like, there's no, I mean, this is it. This is like the big one. I was like, yeah, okay. It's like, where do they go from here? Once this is done, I think, it's like, will it peter out? I was like, I don't know. Marvel is cranking out television series now. I mean, they got Cloak and Dagger coming out, and I guess Hulu picked up Runaways for a second season, and all that kind of stuff. And the Netflix shows have
These second seasons going on.
second seasons going on. So I mean, it's not like Marvel is not doing anything. But I mean, I never thought about it being, because it is the penultimate Marvel comic book film.
Well, maybe we should look at it a different way. I mean, supposition this. Actually, that's probably not the right phrase. English, not my strong suit. So maybe instead of looking at it, it's end of comic book movies, maybe it's the end of looking at them as comic book movies. They're just movies. They're more than just. I mean, yeah, they have their roots from the comic books, but honestly, we really shouldn't be looking at them as comic book movies anymore, or superhero movies. They're just greater than normal people's doing things, etc., etc. I mean, they're just. It's a fantasy film. They're all fantasy films. They don't need to be
True.
tucked away into the superhero genre thing. It's just they don't, because it's going to be so big, it's going to be so epic, and we just shouldn't be looking at it as this is a superhero comic film and it's the end of superhero comic films. It's just the end of looking at it as that way. I mean, a Star Wars film is a sci-fi film, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think the conversation was more about burnout than it was whether or not they're good films or how to categorize them. But it was, will this be because of how big it is and because of how over the top and all that is? Will this be the catalyst that lights the fire for the burnout of these, because people will be fried at this point? I mean, there really is, when you think about the amount of superhero films coming from both houses over a 10-year span. We've got, between DC and Marvel, there's 25 films.
Oh, sure.
That's a lot of movies.
If you want to argue that this is going to be, what really tips people over into burnout, all right, that's a fair argument to make, because there is a lot, and there has been a lot, but by that same token, it's not coming out all that fast. I mean, your average moviegoer and your average person is not going to be watching the Netflix films or series. They're not going to be watching on Hulu. They may watch a little bit here and there, but unless they're just either a really major fan or their kids are really into it, probably not. I don't think the burnout's going to hit as hard or as fast as some people think it will.
True. I mean, Star Wars has the same thing, with the amount of cranking out a Star Wars merch. I mean, we got a live-action television show coming, another animated series probably in the works. We've got a film every year until 2020. It's just like, that's a whole lot of Star Wars.
Which is a lot different than what it used to be.
Yes. There was like nothing for a long time. Then there was like, the prequels, and then nothing. And then, Clone Wars, and then, and Rebels. And now we've got a trilogy and another trilogy and all the in-between stories and all this other stuff and a TV show and hoy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at the end of the prequels, I honestly felt that, all right, that's it. We're done. There will be no more of the films, because that was just kind of the impression.
Kind of think that's what Lucas wanted.
Which means he probably shouldn't have sold it. But he did.
I always try and look at it like, how would I have reacted to all of this if I was still, 12, 13 years old? 12, 13-year-old me would be excited to have all this stuff going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, not that 45-year-old me is not excited.
45-year-old you just happens to have a bad back and a wallet to worry about.
True.
38-year-old me is kind of in the same boat. See, Firefly does point out that for topics, there's a new feature episode coming up for Star Trek Online, and they're doing an interesting twist about it. We didn't actually mention it, their expansion. They've finally announced what it is. No surprise. You're going to the Gamma Quadrant. And they're bringing back an awful lot of Deep Space Nine alumni.
Monstrous amount.
Have they announced who all of them are now?
No. The only other two that they've confirmed is Garrick and Bashir.
Which is going to be fantastic.
They did not confirm Rene Auberjonois?
I think they did.
He was the first one that was one of the first ones that confirmed.
Yeah, because they're going to redo the last bit of voice that they used for the current featured episode. Because they just took that from the series. But yes, new feature episode coming up. You're actually going to play as one of the main NPCs that asked for political asylum, that defected. So that's definitely a significant twist, really. We've always played as ourselves. Well, as our character, anyway. Now we're going to be playing as this other character.
Yeah, we've done missions where we've piloted other ships before, but this is the first time we've ever had another character.
I mean, it's going to be a little weird because, the Zankethi are big characters. And they probably won't move as fast.
See, I'm kind of interested in this this new style of gameplay, because I hope that they then turn around and give us something that we've been wanting since the Dyson Spheres came out, which is the ability to call in and use Voth power suits.
Oh dear lord. Give me some mechs!
Go, go, Starfleet Rangers!
Beam me up, Scotty!
Well,
Beam me up, Scotty, you mighty morphin Starfleet engineer.
The on the let's see, well, Star Trek Online is basically open world. You can play the things, but you are allowed to go anywhere you want, basically. EA is reportedly working on an open world Star Wars game.
Me thinks it's AEA's working on it because Disney is basically gone, hey, hey, dumbasses, see what the fans want? Do that.
Or you lose your exclusive contract.
Hey,
Or
Disney,
it could be,
EA's
bring back Disney Infinity.
or it could be that they're actually doing it because there's talk that they're going to take away the exclusive contract, and so EA's like, "Oh, look at it! Look, we're doing stuff. We're going to do stuff. It's going to be great for the players."
Bigly.
And I channeled a little bit of that individual, didn't I?
Yes, yes, you did.
Speaking of Disney Infinity and Toys to Life games, I didn't realize that all three of the big Toys to Life games, Skylanders, Lego Dimensions, and Infinity. Well, Skylanders hasn't been canceled yet, but it is on indefinite hiatus. But Lego Dimensions was also canceled. I did not realize that. Which is sad because, again, it was one of those games the kids really like to play, and now we are scrambling to go find the characters and stuff for the game because, unlike Infinity, they're keeping the servers up. So the stuff will be, if you want to play the stuff that's on their servers, they will stay up. Whereas Disney Infinity, when it closed, it closed. It was no longer a community thing. It was just now you can play it at home with the characters you got. That's it.
Or you can't play it at all.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you don't have the expansions that were there, that if say someone goes out and buys it and they want to hold some of the newer stuff that was just put out, or even some of the expansions for the other two, you can't get them because they don't exist.
All of you got is just the figures, which is what I got.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's see. I mean, I guess you can still buy it on Steam, and Steam's versions are self-contained and have all the characters and all of the upgrades and all of the stuff that way on the Steam versions, which I thought was funny. You can still buy it from there.
You can buy a lot of different games on Steam. You can buy the Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator. Want to see 10,000 chickens face off against 500 Roman centurions? Go for it.
Yes. You want to see one Jedi take on 50,000 Roman centurions?
Oh, the Jedi's dead. Somebody actually did something similar. They had one Jedi versus like 1,000 zombies.
Yeah. I think they had to
10,000
to at least 100. I think it was 100 Jedi versus so many thousands of so many things.
I think it was like they did 300 Jedi versus 60,000 zombies, and they won for the loss of like 8 Jedi. So they raised it up to 80,000 zombies, and the Jedi still won.
My personal favorite thing that someone has done like that is Chuck Norris versus a turtle. And I did say turtle because nobody was quite sure if it was a turtle or a tortoise.
Turtle. It's from New York.
Hey, now. How you
You're a
doing?
rock star.
Get your game on.
Lord. Go play.
So Firefly is pointing out when it comes to the next mission, if there's a theory going around that the mission will start with you going to DS9 to speak with her, and then it'll segue into the interactive flashback. Well,
I hate interactive flashbacks.
And he also asked the question, there's Voth mechs. Why didn't anybody else do it? Well, Starfleet's not going to do it. It's not really doesn't fit their typical operations. Also, there's not a lot of vehicles, if you think about it, except for the one time we had a vehicle. And the Klingons like to get up close and personal when they kill you. If at all possible.
I could see if they decided to go that route, they would certainly that they would release a bog standard one, and then they would have allied mechanical units like Farasin and stuff like that that would be in C-Store.
Give it to the Romulans. We're providing support! Where are you at? Back here!
Probably be a Reman mech. And it'd be designed after the Scorpion Fighter.
There you go.
The Klingon mech would scare the crap out of me. Speaking of mechs, whatever happened to Transformers Online?
I don't know. What did happen to it?
Oh, the game by the same people who did RuneScape. They closed it down after like 8 months.
Yeah, I was like, oh, cool, Transformer, and it went nowhere.
I still find things like Transformers Online is an upcoming team-based first-person shooter. Yeah, that's all I'm finding here.
Holy crap, DC Online is still a thing too?
Yeah, DC Online is.
Yes.
They're still going strong. Mostly because the company behind it broke away from Sony.
That's funny. There's a very quick blurb on Transformers Online, and it says that it was under development by NetDragon. Beta testing started in August 2011. The game launched in March 2012. The game appears to be abandoned as of 2012. It's like, we're here, and no one showed up.
What was that one game that the servers were, that was like, it was an abandoned game, but the servers were still up, and that one dude went on there, and there was somebody chasing him around?
Oh, Asheron's Call.
Yeah, that was just freaky. Why does Hawkman have toes on his boots? I'm looking at some of the media from DC Online. Hawkman has toes on his boots.
DC Online, I played it for a while, and it's not a bad game. I even paid for the little expansion thing that lets you play as a Green Lantern, because I had to do that.
Let's see. Other MMOs that have fallen by the wayside, although probably not as fast as that. Warhammer Online. That one was launched 2008, and in 2012 it is dead. Sorry, 2013. Oh. There was a spin-off for it. It was going to be a free-to-play, and it opened open beta 2012, shut down before it left beta. Okay, so that one beats Transformers Online for the quickest death. Warhammer Online, though, was a very pretty game. Massive maps to run around in. But no people.
No people?
There was hardly anybody there because it was too damn big.
If you want to play a game that's too damn big, but it's got a lot of people, Planetscape 2.
You know, there was a game years ago. I don't know if you guys have heard it. Planetarion?
No.
Let's see if I can find anything. Yeah, it was a browser-based MMO, pretty much. It looks like it's still alive. Not much in the way of graphics, I mean, or at least it wasn't at the time. You basically you started in a system, you built up fleets, got asteroids, things like that, and the game will update every hour, which they call it a tick, and you can do assaults on other players, make alliances, things like that. I mean, it wasn't very in depth by any means. I played that for a little while. I lost my fleet. like hardcore lost my fleet. It was like, aha, there's no one there because you can spy on big asteroid areas and steal all the asteroids. And that's how you get resources to build bigger fleets. I went to steal it. Unbeknownst to me, somebody else went to steal it first. And they were still there. And I died. And then they came for me. And I lost all my stuff.
Huh.
Let's see. Firefly's mentioning Warhammer Online had an interesting way of dealing with gold sellers. No, it's because it's GW. They want all the gold.
The something completely we haven't talked about like at all, really. Of sci-fi shows that are out there, and some stuff is coming up. The Lost in Space reboot on Netflix. I guess was it April, May?
Nah.
April 13th. I just don't. I don't know. I think the bad taste the film left in my mouth is still there.
I want to wash your mouth out, dude. It's been a while. Watch something good. It'll be a palate cleanser.
Oh, we've talked about crossovers in comic books. There's an interesting one that's going on right now. Battlestar Galactica versus Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
I just got the 3 of them that are out, so I don't know what it's all about yet.
I've only read the first issue.
Oh, okay. Firefly continued on about Warhammer Online. So they had a team dedicated to sniffing out gold sellers, and once one was positively identified, that account would be banned, accompanied by an in-universe server-wide announcement. For example, Charles Nick has ordered the slaughter of blank and all of their ilk for weakening the Raven host by providing wealth and power to the unworthy.
Oh, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, that'll do it. I guess the nerdy things, since I haven't been paying attention to news much, I've been doing a lot of model work. With it's Warhammer.
He
Warhammer
has
40K.
been doing a lot of model work, and dwarfs with guns.
Oh yes, we've been talking about that. All right, so how familiar are you with 40K, Adam?
Not really.
Okay. Real quick overview here.
In the grim dark future, there is only war.
There, you got it. You got multiple races. You got the Imperial Man, greatest, most powerful empire in all of the universe, well, all of the galaxy. But they're always constantly at war with everybody else that's trying to kill them.
Occasionally, themselves.
Yes, and occasionally themselves. You have chaos things that are corrupted humans and other things that you have to fight. And you have Tyranids, which are basically the Zerg out to eat you. And, well, the same thing, really. Just back the other way. They got the Zerg from them. But anyway, and various other races. They used to have one called Squats, which were dwarves in space on space bikes.
I think you've confused Adam.
You have got me sitting here going, what?
I'm trying to keep it, very much an overview. They basically what they did is they took the Warhammer fantasy, which is very much your classic, orcs, dwarves, humans, elves, etc., and they put them in space. That's really the long and short of it.
We'll introduce you to the full thing after the show.
Yes. So I just dropped in the cantina. That's what they put dwarves on in space. They're basically space bikers. However, they weren't very happy with that particular army, so several years back, they wiped them out. They said, nope, you can't have this army anymore in this game. But people kind of dug them because, it's the dwarves in space. Come on, what's not to like? So
Dwarves.
or squats, whatever. I never liked the name of squats for them. That sounds stupid to me. Anyway, so officially you can't use armies made of these models because those armies don't exist. Also officially, they can be part of your Imperial Guard army as, units of the Guard. So that's how you can kind of get around that. Which means if you want to, you can invest in making some models of your own of space dwarves. As long as you say, oh, this unit here is a heavy weapons unit. My buddy and I have been working on this for some time. And we found that the great way to make a heavy weapons unit for dwarves is to take a Gatling gun, put it on a tripod or something like that, put 6 dwarves around it. This is an autocannon. We're going to call it crowd control.
He's gotten very into it.
I see that.
Not really. It seems like I'm really into it, but I'm not actually into it as that much as you think. But
He wants you to think he's not that into it.
No, you still have to do some research if you want to, make it fit right. Especially considering that they just came out with an 8th edition version of the game, so you got to fit the rules if you want to use them in the game. So these are things that we've come up with. They're just going to be some elite units. And one of the things we also discovered, because it's called the Punisher aircraft cannon, is if you wanted to, in the game, they give you all the stats for it. You can put it on a Lehman Russ tank, and it has 40 shots. Considering that the amount of dice that you're already rolling, I can't imagine trying to roll 40 dice just to determine how many hits you get.
Do you recall us trying to fix a frigate?
This is a little different, man. I mean, you could plug in a whole bunch of dice in Tabletop Simulator.
You probably have to use a digital dice roll in there too.
No. I think it's required you have to use actual dice. Probably because they want to make sure everybody can see them. Make sure you're not cheating or something. They've had some interesting rules in the game over the years, but the fact that you're allowed to kind of bring in the dwarves in a kind of backdoor way is kind of fun.
Send in the dwarves.
But my buddy doesn't want to be buying any dwarf models to experiment with until we get his army that he started back when he was 13 finished painted. It's going to take a while. And I'll throw some images just because I know you'll dig them at them
Cool.
into the Facebook chat.
I mean, I've seen some other Warhammer figures and stuff like that. So
They're like about approximately, well, like the squat bicycle one I dropped here.
yeah.
That's on a 60 millimeter base.
What's really funny is I think from what I remember, people were more into painting them and detailing them than they were actually playing the game.
Well, you have to. It's a requirement. If you want to play in tournaments, you're actually required to put some paint on them in some way, shape, or form. So we knew a guy who his way to do it was he'd take his mini and he'd dip it in paint, wait till it dry, dip it a little bit into another color of paint, but only halfway, wait till it dries, then dip it just a quarter of the way. Because the requirement at the time was you had to have 3 unique paint colors on your minis. And that's how he got around the rule.
Hey, he followed the rule. He didn't get around it.
Yeah, he just didn't want to paint it in any detail. But if you actually go through the trouble of painting it, maybe make some fluff, which is what they call it, for your army, that actually gives you additional points to use in the game, and they judge you on it. You can get judged on it and get prizes for it. Games Workshop's got a lot tied up into it.
Too much time. Too much time on my hands.
And not enough time on your hands.
Exactly.
Yeah, it takes a while. But here, let me go ahead and just drop a quick one.
Not here. It attracts flies.
Oh, no.
Huh?
There. That was one I sent up because it was sending me some stuff to use for bases. One of the things I was doing yesterday with my buddy was I was experimenting with trying to create terrain on these 60mm bases. And I made some discoveries. For example, did you know that Elmer's glue has a spray-on adhesive now?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I'm walking around yesterday, and I figure, okay, he said he's got an old bottle of Elmer's glue, because that's the way to generally put on terrain like flock and whatnot. You need to use watered down glue. So I went to find a bottle, and lo and behold, there was the spray there. I was like, all right, well, maybe that's actually a watered down glue in spray form. All right, I'll grab that. It's $3. I get to this place, and I'm doing all my different experiments. Try some watered down glue. Don't quite get it working. It kind of works. Whatever. Go on to the next thing, and I take out the spray, shake it up really good, and I spray on this base in his sink. You got 15 seconds. And I quickly put it down in this other box, put the flocking on there, and then I go to clean up his sink. And I'm glad I did, because if I hadn't, I think I would have destroyed his sink. It is not watered down glue. I was peeling stuff off. I mean, it's like I start rubbing it with water pouring. It's like, oh God, why is it smearing? What have I done? God, why? Grab a sponge, start scrubbing harder. And then it's like it's becoming the consistency of bubble gum in the sponge.
The heck is this stuff? Oh, it's like a rubber cement then.
Kind of, sort of. Mistakes were made. Regrets were definitely had. The sponge was destroyed. But I saved the sink.
Well, that's good.
So yeah, for future reference, it's not bad stuff by any means, especially if you want to do some stuff like that. You got to find a different way to apply it. Another thing I tried, though, was, and this actually worked out really good, take floor wax, floor sealant, an acrylic floor sealant, put it in a little spritz bottle, and spray it on your terrain stuff, or on your little miniatures with the flock on it. Seals it up really good. There's a lot of things that you learn as you're going here when you're dealing with models, which is not too dissimilar to like sculpting, I think, just in a kind of a different form. I don't know, Adam, you're the sculptor here. You would be able to tell me if that's true or not.
I don't know.
But you never experimented with your sculpting?
Yeah, I mean, I have. But my experiments never, I don't know.
He hasn't experimented since college.
No, not really. No, that's not true. But I have. I don't know. I haven't sculpted it in a while. It's still sitting there, and now it's just waiting for it.
I was about to say, we know. I'm still waiting.
He's waiting and waiting. Oh. Okay, move on. I'll think about it.
Well,
Move along, move along.
well, have you done any models in the past?
Any models?
Any modeling, yeah.
Yeah, I've done modeling. I mean, usually it was just kit bashing and or kits.
But you kit bash.
What did I kit bash? Oh, I used to kit bash stuff all the time in college. That was actually one of the requirements. We had to come up with things and make models and prototypes. So you go out and, oh, I want to make this spaceship. Kit bash the crap out of it.
Any of them stand out?
Uh, I think I had a a hover bike that I made out of a F-14, a Warthog, a Harley Davidson, and a Mustang. And then some custom pieces made out of styrene.
Oh, man, that's quite the mix, man.
Yeah, and it was we had modeling classes, and then we had to actually make our own using vacuum forming styrene and stuff like that. But there was a kit bash. We had to do kit bashes and stuff too, and it was actually encouraged. And it was really funny. As some of the best kit bash parts are not actual parts from the models, but the flashing around them or whatever that stuff is called. I can't remember.
The sprues?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did an experiment yesterday where I took a T piece of sprue, drilled a hole through one of the 60 millimeter bases, and then glued it up there so that I would have a carrying handle. It actually worked out pretty damn good.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
oh, go ahead.
no, yeah, kit bash. I mean, doing stuff with if you find something in a model that works for a sculpture, then yeah, you can do that kind of stuff and experiment that way. But I mean, mixing media sometimes can be a great thing and sometimes isn't a good thing at all.
Yeah, we made a discovery. Well, let me rephrase. I didn't make the discovery. A friend of mine who also plays 40K had made a discovery. So you know how you can try to put an epoxy on stuff to fill in and maybe add a different shape, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she was going to try to do the same thing with Sculpey.
Nope.
She discovered Sculpey or whatever you pronounce it melted the mini.
Well, yeah, because it's a polymer base. It's got
Was that it?
Yeah, it's a polymer. That's why it's called polymer clay.
Well, we talked about it recently. We couldn't remember exactly what it was. Just the fact. Well, it's a clay. It's got to be like maybe water in that.
No, it's
some kind of chemical.
based. Yeah, and to thin it out, you don't use water. You use to thin it and to smooth it and stuff. You have to use either rubbing alcohol, or not rubbing alcohol, mineral spirits or something to that effect. You can't use like alcohol like you would with clay. You can use clay. I mean, I think for like oil-based clays and stuff, the best are rubbing alcohol and paint thinner, not paint thinner, but rubber cement thinner. And those, I mean, that'll smooth your clay out real quick. It actually, if you're trying to keep hard details, you don't want to use the rubber cement or what is it, Bestine. You don't want to use Bestine at all, but alcohol, really, really soft alcohol on it. But yeah, polymer-based clays, yeah, they'll definitely eat through certain materials,
Well,
especially if you're trying to thin it.
Well, it certainly ate through the plastic mini that GW puts out. But it's definitely popular enough that other companies have made miniatures that could work in that game system, about 28 to 30 millimeter size. And one of the images I just dropped in the cantina is the car that you could order from someplace.
Can you use it tournament-wise?
No. It's not
so.
an official one.
Yeah.
But if you're doing just for your own game, sure.
Yeah.
And there's another company that has same scaled dwarves. They call them, science fiction dwarves, and they look very much like they would belong in 40K. So there's ways to enhance your game if you so wish, but you still got to build them and you still got to paint them.
Enhance your game. Sounds like a Cialis commercial.
Hey, men, would you like to enhance your game? Get Cialis. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of really neat stuff that they've come out with over the years. GW did a lot of metal ones, and they still have a lot of metal models. And that's a pain in the ass, honestly, to paint. They're kind of heavy. And plastic, I think, does a better job. It takes paint better, and it holds. It has better details. Like the image that I sent to the group in the Facebook chat. That's the main gun in the picture is made of plastic, and then the guns around it were metal.
Well, that's okay. You can do that kind of stuff because I mean they're not going to react to each other.
Well, sure, but it's just you can tell by the detail. It's just the plastic looks better than the metal ones do.
Yeah. On the toy front and sculpting front, I know we touched on this last week. Hot Toys has finally released the ultimate Luke Skywalker action figure. It is the baby Luke Skywalker that comes with the Obi-Wan Kenobi figure they just released, or are planning on releasing. Which it's a blasted good sculpt of Ewan McGregor, but it's the first time anyone. I mean, it's just like the Star Wars toys are weird. We get Captain Zuvio, or whatever his name was, the Zuvio guy that never even appeared in the film, and now we have baby Luke Skywalker. It's a really good sculpt on that too. But then again, Hot Toys sculpts are always really good, which is why their figures cost way too much money. Too much money.
All the good stuff always costs too much.
So you too can be a douchebag toy collector with a baby Luke Skywalker.
If that's what you're going out for.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I had the disposable income or the unlimited disposable income where I could afford those things, I would have tons of them because they really are incredible sculpts.
Speaking of disposable income, last week we talked about the STO ships and getting 3D printed.
Yes.
Well,
Did you get one? I'm going to kill you.
I'd not get one. No, I'm not. Still too much money.
No, man, did you win the freebie that they were doing?
No.
Because I wouldn't put it past you.
Believe me, if I had won that one, you would already know.
Because I probably would have just materialized in your room and be like, "How dare you win another freebie?" Like happened with the universe ship that you got.
Yeah. Now, in a similar situation or a similar topic, I should say, not so much need to complain, even though I still feel like the prices are too much, because it could always be worse. EVE Online had a partnership with a company called Project Triforce. And I will say this is a very lovely case example of why you really need to do research into your business partners before you do business with them. But basically, they were going to do these high-detail models of a ship from EVE Online called the Nyx that sat over a magnetic plate, so it actually hovered in the air.
Ooh, cool.
To pre-order the ship was $100. The full price was $1,800. Hundreds of people ordered these things. Project Triforce hasn't gone under. Project Triforce is just refusing to speak to anybody, including CCP. And they also put on their frequently asked questions page, "We do not ever issue refunds."
No refunds.
No refunds for the thousands of dollars people paid for those ships.
Is there a lawsuit involved?
There will be.
I would certainly hope that one would happen, yes.
Class action lawsuit?
The worst part is CCP is like, we haven't seen a single dime of this, but we're still going to... we can't refund the people who have purchased the full thing because they have no purchase record of it, but everybody who had done a pre-order through the page will have the pre-order refunded in Plex, which is the in-game currency. Basically, CCP is like, this sucks. Billy, their community manager person on Facebook went, this just plain sucks.
Yeah, that there's no good way to fix that one. Well, speaking on the toys front, and also mixing media, Ready Player One is coming out, or is out.
It should be out tomorrow.
There's probably some early shows tonight.
Most likely.
Oh, was it actually premiering on a Wednesday?
I think the actual premiere dates are still like Thursdays, but they're like the early shows that you can go see it soon. Quote unquote midnight showing, and it's at 10 or 11 or whatever.
I might go see it Saturday.
You know what's really funny? It's awesome and stuff. I tried reading the book. My brother-in-law gave me the book years ago, and I made it a chapter and a half in before I just couldn't. I was like, I have no idea what the hell is going on. It confused the crap out of me. And
I don't know much about it.
Maybe I'll go back. I'll see the movie, and then I'll go back and try to read the book again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go see it because one, I need to see all the references and everything.
Yes.
Like one thing I know is, I know I mentioned this to Trekkie one earlier, but I don't know if you knew this, Tank. Rooster Teeth actually signed a release, and Ruby Rose and her weapon, and maybe even her, will appear in the movie.
Oh man. Well, according to Kevin Bulk, who's well known for doing some pretty fantastic comic art stuff, did
Ensign Sue Must Die.
That specifically, and It Sucks to Be a Ouija. He posted about 42 minutes ago, Ready Player One is definitely more Wreck-It Ralph than Pixels. Don't let the trailers or the cynics fool you. Go see it so it doesn't become another Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim was a good movie.
But apparently it was, people who avoided it because others poo-pooed it. So, yeah, it looked like it'd be fun to watch.
I intend to go see it, and I will be perfectly honest, this is how easy I am to please sometimes. One of the big major reason that I was like, yeah, I need to go see this film is because they are including the original Gundam in it.
Yeah, it's there. And the Iron Giant. And a DeLorean.
Well, I mean, if anybody should be making a movie that has that many throwbacks to the 1980s and 80s pop culture, it would be Steven Spielberg.
But it's not just throwback to 80s and 80s pop culture. It's literally a throwback. The movie is literally a throwback to everything that is been geeky and gaming related since the 80s.
Except for any Steven Spielberg items. He specifically left those out.
But there's a T-Rex in it from Jurassic Park.
That one's kind of more open. I mean, T-Rexes aren't exactly just his. But that's why they specifically left out things like Indiana Jones and E.T. and stuff like that. They apparently came out and said, yeah, I didn't want to do that. I mean, because it would seem a little bit too...
self-serving?
Yes.
Be like giving yourself a reach around.
Pretty much.
Wow, has it been 2 hours already? We have rambled on for
it's been 2 hours.
Holy cow. Well, Wolfie, we're sorry we lost you. I know you're out there listening, hopefully.
Somewhere beyond the sea.
Really?
That's the second time I've sung this episode, so...
And
he's not drunk.
Someone is listening to me.
As far as you know.
Well, you can't be drunk too much. It'd be more noticeable, I think.
Well, I'm going to call last call.
Well, I don't really have much for a last call this week.
No, me neither.
No, I mean, think we kind of covered everything pretty
We
good.
did.
Oh,
I think.
wait, Easter.
What? Huh?
We got Easter coming up.
What about Easter?
Well, if you're going to go home, visit family, have a good time, enjoy family.
Yeah.
You can say nice things about that. We can wish our fans, one of them, all of them that we have, a good time. Nothing wrong with that.
Be nice to the people who are having to work on Easter Sunday.
Yes. You know what? I think next week we're going to do an entire episode on flat Earth.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, that'll be easy. Earth ain't flat.
We'll just say that the entire Earth's not flat. Earth's not flat.
Oh, have you seen the image that had gone around where the Flat Earth Society said, we have members across, around the world? And then somebody responded back with, say that again, but slowly.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do that all the time. The how they were going to prove the Earth was flat by using some sort of drone, whatever. And when somebody asked them how they're going to keep track of it, they said GPS. And somebody said, say that back slowly. Or what does GPS stand for? Global positioning. Because it wouldn't work if it wasn't global.
Not to mention, if the Earth was flat, it'd be day everywhere.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
that's true.
Dude, that's because they turned the light off. You gotta read. This is really what these people believe, that there's some sort of we're living in a plastic bubble. I'm like, oh, it makes Scientology look sane.
And we know they're not.
Oh, I just said that we're gonna have bad emails now. Bad things happen.
Hey, any attention is better than no attention.
Who's gonna come out the closet?
I don't think, have we ever actually gotten a bad email?
No, we've just been blocked by Fox.
I'm a little disappointed.
I mean, we did have the copyright thing, but I think that's more YouTube's bots jumping all over us than anything else.
Yeah, YouTube's bots are kind of stupid.
I mean, I could probably go back and dispute that because it was it was used in a commentary way, and it wasn't used in as in, hey, look, we're showing. I mean, it's not like you can't go watch the trailer for Star Wars on YouTube.
Right.
But I don't know. But next week, I mean, we should get into that. Anti-science I mean, people the denying of the fact that the Earth is round. I don't understand
facts
it.
in general?
Yeah, well, I just laugh. I mean, the ancient Greek mathematically proved the Earth was round 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, some guy was able to prove the Earth was round by measuring the difference in shadows at the exact same time at two different obelisks in two different cities.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the whole. I mean, and then there are some famous people that really believe the Earth is flat, and then some of the reasoning behind all of it, and some of the pseudo crap. I love some of these videos that they're trying to. Water would fall off the Earth. It's obviously you have no clue how science works. How does the water stay on the planet? How do we walk across a flat surface? You're not. The only problem is you are literally a speck of dust on the side of this planet. You cannot perceive the actual curve because your eyes, you just can't because of your size. If you were huge, yes.
Or high up.
Or high up. Oh, but no, that's camera.
They all refuse to go high up.
Yeah, that's the camera. That's the camera refraction. Or whatever. It's the camera. The camera makes it look round. Fisheye lenses. Every photograph ever taken from an airplane is on a fish with a fisheye lens.
I want a reality TV show where flat earthers sail to the edge of the world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. We haven't found it yet.
We tried that back in 1492. Or at least somebody did. And before that, I'm pretty sure the Vikings. Yeah. And actually, I think before that, they're saying that the Egyptians might have actually transversed the Atlantic.
I've heard that. I don't buy that one.
Why not?
That's one I don't, because they didn't really venture out that far.
You never know.
We do know. That's the funny thing about history. We actually, in archaeology, we can prove that one as of currently existing facts. They were basically in the Mediterranean area. Now, maybe at a stretch, some goods somehow found their way over, but I don't know how, because as far as we're aware, there was no trade and shipping that went back and forth.
Oh, we'll just have to keep digging then.
Was that a bad attempt at a pun?
No, not at all. We really should just keep digging, keep looking. That's the cool thing about archaeology, is they always find new stuff.
We're always learning new things. Like we've learned the fact that dinosaurs probably had feathers.
Some of them. Not all of them.
Well, it would make sense. I mean, tiny T-Rex arms. Actually, that would make a lot more sense having some kind of wing thing. But
yeah, I think there's a split between the bipeds and the quadrupeds, the sauropods and the other ones.
Oh, sure.
Whereas usually the what do they call them? There's the sauropods, which would be like the brachiosaur, the brontosaur, and the other four-legged big ones. And then there's a term for the two-legged ones, like the T-Rex and the Allosaurus, the Velociraptor, or the Utah raptor, whatever raptors. The raptors in general, where they're the ones that probably had feathers, would be the ones that were more like the birds. But that's
flightless birds.
Flightless birds. But we'll be back next week, talking all kinds of sciencey crap and geeky stuff. And if you haven't bought the Blu-ray of The Last Jedi, go out and buy it. Even if you didn't like the movie, watch it a couple of times, and maybe it'll grow on you.
And have a good weekend and a good Easter.
Yes, enjoy your weekend. And we'll be back next week, and hopefully Wolfie will be with us. I miss Tade.
That man needs to stop working.
Yeah.
Wait, no, he can't stop working. Then he wouldn't be here either. Because he would be homeless. Sort of.
Yes. But
We also need Roland.
Yeah. But Tay made us fabulous.
Fabulous.
All right. We'll be back next week. Say goodnight.
Later.
Good night.
Thank you.